Well, welcome everybody to our live stream tonight. Thanks for joining us here for this creative ministry series. We're going to laugh a little bit, relax a little bit, and get together virtually this time around and have some comedy with our comedian tonight. Our comedian tonight shares the Guinness Book World Record for the longest stand-up comedy show, which lasted over 8 days. He recently released a dry bar special called Put Down the Sweet Tea and was featured on Country Music Television's 20 Greatest Redneck Moments. Please put your hands together for Rik Roberts. All right, well, welcome to the big program. Hope everybody is doing well at home and you're sitting back with some popcorn, a soda pop, whatever you need to do to relax tonight and enjoy some laughs. I'll kind of tell you all about myself as we get going through the program tonight. First off, I'll just let you know I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, and I moved down there about 21 years ago when they still made country music. That's how long it's been, 2 decades since they've made a good country song down there. Actually, I like a lot of country music, but it's just not meant for me anymore. I'm 53 years old, and they just don't make songs for me. They make them for the young folks, and that's all right. My daughter, she's 9. She really is into Taylor Swift, which I think is fine. Taylor Swift, creative, great songwriter. But, man, that girl is angry. Every song she's got, she's just mad at somebody else. You know, she needs to eat a sandwich or something. She's maybe a little hangry there. We counted up one night. She's got 16 different songs about breaking up with boyfriends. 16. I told my wife after 16, the problem could be her, right? Why you got to be so mean? That's what I want to know. Just shake it off, girl. Shake it off. Then I started thinking, could you imagine being a guy going on a date with her? The whole time you're just probably thinking, what does my name rhyme with? Right? We're going to know all about that guy. But that's the way it is in country music. Everything kind of scales down younger. And she's not even country anymore, you know. She's gone to pop. And when I was a kid, I liked different bands than I listen to now, although some of them I still listen to. My first concert was when I was in 3rd grade. Went to see Kiss. Y'all remember Kiss? Yeah, saw them in 1977. Saw them 2 years ago, and whew, they need to make up this time around. Let me tell you what. That's a wagon load of ugly on tour right there. The whole concert sponsored by Mary Kay just to help them out. But that was the biggest band I could see when I was a kid, and I liked them because they would blow stuff up on stage, pyrotechnics, you know. One guy would actually spit blood on people. Remember that? Now if it happens, they got to stop the show and make sure it's not a medical condition. He's getting up there. But that was the craziest band I could see, you know. And part of the reason I play guitar now is because of all those influences I had growing up. But Nashville's where I live. Nice place to be. Growing a lot, and you kind of forget that it's not just country music stars that live in Nashville. There's also people you know from politics and news. Al Gore lives in Nashville, Tennessee. Saw him a few weeks ago at the car wash, of all places. You think he'd have a better job after being the VP, but got to pay the bill somehow. He was wasting a lot of water, though. I thought that was bad for the environment, and he should have watched out for that. But yeah, Nashville's got a lot going on, and I'm pretty good at going out. Don't go out as much as I used to. Me and my wife, we've settled down, and I've been married now. In fact, when was it? It was Monday. We celebrated our 19-year anniversary. So 19 years together. And yeah, you know, we're getting there. I'm sure it's not the longest of anybody watching tonight. Some people, you know, I talked to a couple on the show a few weeks ago. They've been married for 63 years. Been married for 63. They were in their 90s. And I asked the guy, how do you surprise her with presents after all these years? 'Cause I'm out of ideas, you know. He said, it's easy, man. I get her the same thing every year, and she never says nothing about it. She's happy. I said, what do you get her? I just get her a card. I said, you just get her a card, and she's happy all these years? He goes, yeah, it's a prepaid Visa card, about $100 on that thing. But, yeah, that was pretty good, 63 years of marriage. My parents have been married for almost 60, and, growing up, I never even asked them how they got to know each other, where they met in the first place. And this is how my parents met. This is how small the world was. That, you know, when they met, they went to downtown Georgetown, Kentucky to see a yield sign being put in. Yeah, that's the least romantic story you're ever going to hear in your life. My mom went to see concrete dry, saw my dad and said, well, he's more interesting than that. Maybe I ought to marry him. But they're a good example, and my wife and I were trying to match that. Hopefully I lived long enough. I got married a little bit later than my parents did, but 19 years. And I've learned a few things. I've learned that I have to admit that I'm wrong even when I'm right sometimes, and I have to admit that I have no idea that there was even an argument sometimes and that she should win it. We have to figure each other out. And that's the thing you don't realize when you first get married. In fact, if the pastor is watching, I think they should add a couple of lines to those wedding vows, like the person you're marrying today will not be the same person at all in 20 years. Are you cool with that? You got to keep relearning their language. They'll say things, and you're supposed to figure out what they mean. Like my wife once, we're sitting there on the couch, and she goes, I want you to communicate more, but I don't want you to talk. I didn't even know if I should respond to that. I'm like, can I communicate back to you? I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, we'll sit here and we'll talk for 2 hours, and I'll get up, and we haven't said nothing. And I said, well, that's my game plan. I'm playing it straight down the middle. I'm not getting in any topics that'll rile you up. That's how we're still married. She goes, no, you need to express yourself more. And I said, boy, when I used to do that, I got in a lot of trouble. I said, what's on your mind? She goes, well, Valentine's Day is coming up. This was back in January. She said, Valentine's Day is coming up, and I can tell it stresses you out, so let's talk about it. I said, well, this is what stresses me out. I don't know what to buy you anymore. I'm down to getting you gift cards to places that I want to go out to eat so I can go out to eat with you. I said, there's got to be something that you would like that you've never told me that I could get for you for Valentine's Day. That would take a lot of stress out. She goes, oh, well, if that's the case, how about we don't exchange any gifts? Would that be better? I said, that'd be great. She goes, instead, we'll just exchange ideas to each other on a piece of paper instead. I said, what do you mean by that? She goes, I'm going to write down a couple of things you're not doing right around this house you could do better, and you write down a couple about me. I'm like, stop right there. That's like a trap door and an escalator. I'm like, let me get this straight. You're going to tell me something I'm not doing right. I'm going to tell you something you're not doing right, and that's romantic Valentine's Day? She goes, well, if we fix those 6 or 7 things. I'm like, she's got a list started already. I'm down 6-0, didn't know he was even playing the game. I said, you want to do that? She goes, yeah. I said, fine. I didn't think it through. I'm thinking I don't have to go shopping or spend any money. Then I realized this could cost me the house and kids. I had to come up with something to tell her that she was doing wrong around her house. Fellas, if you're watching at home, maybe you could think of something to tell your wife, but would you actually tell her what she was doing wrong? Maybe. Would you write it down on a piece of paper to be used as evidence against you in a court of law? No. But I'd already committed to it, and I knew I had to come up with 6 or 7 things. So I'm like, all right. I started following her around the house for a couple of weeks with a notepad, just trying to get under her nerves a little bit, trying to figure out what she was doing wrong. And what I realized is she does a lot of things differently than I would and differently than she used to do. But none of it's wrong. It's just different, So I wrote down one little thing that I thought she could do better, and we went out to eat for Valentine's Day. Now, this was back in February. Some things were open, some things weren't. And on top of that, and people being short-staffed, it's the worst night of the year to go out to eat. I don't know if you've ever been out on Valentine's Day, but they just can't keep up with the demand. We're sitting there at the restaurant. 30 minutes goes by. Still haven't got our food yet. I said, while we're waiting, what am I not doing right around the house? She goes, here's the big thing. If I ask you to fix something around here, can you do it the same year I ask you to do it? I'm like, I thought I was pretty good at that. Give me an example. She goes, I'll ask you to change a light bulb that burns out in the fixture. You wait till every light bulb burns out, then you change them all at once. I'm like, that's why they got the extras, duh. I mean, I didn't say that, but I was thinking it real loud. I said, honey, I'll try harder. That's my go-to phrase. She goes, all right, what about me? I said, listen, I want to be real clear. This is Valentine's Day. I don't think you're doing nothing wrong. Some things you can do different, but you're not doing nothing wrong. One thing I do miss, though, before we had our kids, if I was home on the weekend and I wasn't traveling, you'd surprise me sometimes with this big old breakfast, just like Cracker Barrel in the house, just had everything going on. I said, no, it takes a long time to do that, and you've got your schedule and your work now and the kids' schedule and school, but man, I miss that big old breakfast. I looked back across the table, and she had started tearing up and crying right there at the Hardee's. Yes, on Valentine's Day. Probably because we were at Hardee's on Valentine's Day. But she was really tearing up. I'm like, slow down. You're going to get a soggy thick burger here if you don't watch out. I said, that was a compliment. I loved your big breakfast. And then she looked right back across the table, and she goes, "Oh, so that's what a compliment sounds like." I'm like, "Oops, I'm down at least 10-0 right now." I said, "Surely you remember me telling you how good those breakfasts were." She goes, "I don't think you ever told me that they were good, and I think that's why I quit making them, because you didn't appreciate them." Then I started tearing up and crying, thinking about all these years, 16 years of Fruity Pebbles and Pop-Tarts I've been shoveling down with soy milk. Whew. You ever had soy milk? That's like white out in water. What are they putting in that cup? Your straw shouldn't stand up in the middle by itself. That's all I'm saying. So I told her, "Listen, you don't have to make those big breakfasts, but I do miss them. I'm sorry that I never complimented you back in the day," even though I'm pretty sure I did. So that was it. Had our thick burger, went and saw a movie. Fellas, the very next morning, this is why you communicate and not talk. The very next morning I woke up, smelled maple syrup and pancakes. Yeah. And I ran downstairs, and my sweet wife had bought a candle somewhere that smells exactly like breakfast. Yeah. You ever been hungry and mad at 6 a.m. Central? Hit the bottom step, my little boy had the camcorder. Like, "Papa, she got you good." I'm like, "What are you doing with that candle?" She goes, "Oh, I had to use it. The last light bulb just burned out." I'm like, man, she wasn't even trying to get me, and she got me. But that was Valentine's Day, and we're still together. Like I say, 19 years. I'm surprised she married me, because every step of the getting engaged and getting married process I did wrong. I don't know how it was when you went to propose, but I didn't know what ring size she was. So I was trying to figure it out on my own. One time around Thanksgiving, I had her trace her hand on a piece of paper, make me a turkey hand drawing. Yeah, she didn't know what I was up to, and neither did the guy at the jewelry store. He's like, "You gonna marry a turkey or what?" I'm like, "Nope, but she is." I said, "Can't you ballpark the ring size from that turkey hand drawing?" He said, "Do you even listen to the words that come out of your head?" I'm like, "Can't you figure it out?" He goes, "Here's what you do, buddy. How often do you see this girl?" And at the time I was traveling a lot. I said, "Maybe once or twice a week. If I'm home, we'll go out to Cracker Barrel or a movie or something." He goes, "All right, when you go pick her up at her place next time, see if you can distract her when she's not looking. Find where she keeps all the rings at. She'll have like a little drawer for her, or a little box. Grab a ring out there you never see her wear and bring it down here. She won't miss it for a day. I'll size it up for you, and you'll know what size she is." I said, "Well, I know I can do that." Because back in those days, especially, I don't know how many people remember the days before you got married when you were still trying to impress each other. She was trying to impress this for whatever reason. But she would spend all this time getting ready, and she had one eyebrow that stuck straight out. I mean, it was like AWOL, And she put some hairnet, White Rain hairspray or something like that on her thumb, and she pressed back on that eyebrow and mashed back on it for like 5 minutes so it would stay in place, right? And if she let off 1 second early, ping, it popped right back out. So I'm waiting in the kitchen for her to get ready. I hear ping. I'm like, I got 5 more minutes right now. So I sneak past her. She's up in the mirror. I belly crawl like an army man right down the hallway. I get in her room, and I start looking around, and sure enough, I see this little box like the jewelry man said, and open it up. There's a bunch of rings. I'd never seen her wear any of these, so I grab one out of there and pocket it. Next day, take it down to the jewelry store, and he's got a piece of rebar that he brings out, and he slides the ring on there. Then when it stops, he knows what size to get. He said, "Well, I got the size. What do you want to do now?" I said, "All right, give me an engagement ring and a wedding band and 2 separate receipts in case it goes wrong, because I ain't chasing down another girl. 3 times is too many already." So I had that ring burning a hole in my pocket all the way to Christmas. I couldn't bring myself to propose. I was too scared. 30 days. I finally get up the nerve in front of all my future in-laws. We're down in Arkansas, and I get down on my knee after everybody opened their presents up. I said, "I got one more." Popped the question. Everybody was so happy, and I'll go to put that ring on, and apparently I had gotten a toe ring out of that dresser. That's right. She had a princess cut toe ring. So it took us about 30 minutes to figure out what I did there, but it fit right on her big toe, perfect. So that was the first sign that maybe she shouldn't marry me. Then we get to the planning of the wedding, and it's amazing. This is a beautiful church here, but there's a lot of weddings in normal times here. Just a beautiful, and the organ must sound great. It looks so pretty. Our church was very gracious. They said, you can have the church, you can have the reception hall, take care of the organist, take care of whoever has to clean up after you, but everything else is for you. And we couldn't believe it. 2 days before our wedding, a big storm came through town, put a big oak tree right down the middle of the reception hall at church. So we couldn't have the reception in there for 300 people. We could still have the service in the sanctuary. We had to find a hotel on 2 days' notice in Nashville, Tennessee, and they knew they had us. One hotel said, we'll cut you a deal, give you the main ballroom for the night, $12,000. I said, who is getting cut and where's the deal? $12,000. I'll get me a used single wide and have it in there and keep it and make some money off of this deal. Right? I could hitch that up and take it to everybody in the wedding and still come out ahead. I looked at that guy and said, I can't afford that. Where can I have my reception at on my budget? He looked at me and goes, rest area, I-65. Man, he was right. That was easy access off the interstate for all the out-of-towners. Everything was bolted down so my in-laws couldn't haul it off in the pickup truck. Had it catered by vending. That's the way to go right there. Lance and Thomas had all the crackers hooked up for us. But the wedding got big, got out of hand. You know, this was 19 years ago, right when the internet was starting to come along. People were getting on MySpace and a little bit on Facebook maybe. And my wife started reconnecting with friends she forgot all about and inviting them to the wedding. Had too many bridesmaids. Like, what do you think is a good number for bridesmaids? 3, 4? My wife had 9. I only have 3 friends. That was a long day for those guys. I'm like, 2 more laps, guys. Keep bringing them in. Don't stop till you get to the short girl. Looks like she wants to be somewhere else. That's the one, right? And it was a big day, but we got through it. 19 years ago. Now we got 2 kids, and I'm 53 with a 16-year-old boy and a 9-year-old baby girl. And if that's not enough, recently my wife has even started talking about adoption. I told her, I said, honey, slow down. I don't think anybody is going to take these kids off her hands at this point. You pick which one you want. I picked the little one. She gets up too early. Now, I wouldn't trade him for nothing, but boy, it's a lot. And I know you've got little ones. I know more people watching home probably have little ones. That's the phase you just got to tough it out and get through. The diaper years, oh my goodness. That's $1 billion industry right there. They say it takes more machinery and technology to make a diaper than it takes to make a space astronaut suit. And William Shatner just had both a couple days ago. But yeah, I didn't know anything about changing diapers. Didn't think I was ever going to have to, because we had a baby shower with our first child, and my wife's friend bought us this contraption called a diaper genie. I thought, the problem solved. Genie's going to hop out of a bottle, change a diaper, hop back in. That's some false advertising, diaper genie. It's an $18 stinky bucket. That's all it is. Just a garbage can that winds up the diapers in a big old sausage link so you can drag it out to the trash. I said, if you see that genie, wish for some Febreze. That's what we need. Yeah, I don't know anything about diapers. Didn't know anything about changing, First time I had to change my son, we were out at the mall. Had to use one of those plastic koala bear Ebola dispensers. You ever seen those contraptions hanging off the wall? I didn't know how it worked. It said baby changing station. I just put him on there and closed it up real tight. And I said, stop screaming. Let me know when it's changed, Yeah, I pulled that thing back down. He was crying and screaming. And I said, sorry, buddy, we'll try again. As soon as the security guy leaves, we'll try it again. So then I read every bit of instructions on that entire thing. And next time you look at it, there's a little shiny sticker down the right corner. It says, weight not to exceed 150 pounds. I'm like, man, that's a big old baby right there. 150, that's a state fair baby is what that is, ain't it? Don't put it next to the butter sculpture of Garth Brooks. It could eat it. That's a big old baby. Yeah, but they grow up fast. You've got kids, they start talking and they say funny things once they start putting sentences together. And they say scary things. Sometimes your kids will creep you out. They don't tell you about that part. Your kids have no filter when they're little. They're going to say what pops in their mind. They don't care how it affects you at all. One night I'm tucking my boy in the bed. I'm like, hey, buddy, hope you have sweet dreams. He looks up at me and goes, I hope you're still breathing when I wake up in the morning. I'm like, what do you know that I don't know? I was awake. I didn't sleep the wink a whole night. Yeah, and sometimes they say funny stuff, but you can't laugh because it wasn't the right kind of funny. I don't know if that makes sense or not. It's funny, but you don't want to encourage them to go further down that road, We're brushing our teeth one night. He's probably 6 years old at this point. Brushing our teeth before we go to bed, and I see him looking over at me, then back at him in the mirror, and then he thinks I'm not looking. He looks back at me, then back at him in the mirror, and I said, what's going on, pal? He said, Papa, I just noticed me and you, we kind of look alike. I'm like, yeah, that's how it works, man. What do you think about that? He looks at me and goes, what are you going to do? I said, well, you are going to go to bed early. That's what you're going to do. And you're probably not going to go to prom either. Ha ha. I'm going to close your door all the way. Hope you're still breathing when I wake up in the morning. And now that little kid is driving, 16 years old and driving. And I got to tell you, it was a struggle to get him behind the wheel. When I was a kid, I couldn't wait to drive. I was driving tractors when I was 12. I was driving cars around the farm when I was 14 or even younger. I said, buddy, you got to get behind the wheel. And I could tell he was just afraid that it might be dangerous and lead him somewhere even more dangerous, like a job. So that was a struggle we had with him. But he's a good kid. My daughter, 9 years old, she's a pistol, and she is definitely the one we got to work on. She says what comes to her mind too, buddy. Man, about 3 weeks into the lockdown, I had all my work canceled, so I'm sitting there at home, and we're at dinner one night, and she looks across the table at me. And I know she gets away with a lot more when I'm not home, so I think this is where it was coming from. But she looks at me and she goes, Papa, why are you home all the time now? I said, honey, I'm home from work the same reason you're home from school. There's a virus. We don't know what it's doing. We don't know how people are getting it. At that point, we didn't know anything. I said, in fact, I can't even go to work if I wanted to. They've considered my job to be non-essential. Now, she's little. She didn't know what that means. She goes, what does that mean? I said, oh, yeah. Non-essential means it's something that's nice to have, but most people think you don't need to have it. She goes, oh, I get it. Kind of like your hair. I'm like, yeah. Or your college fund. All right. But she's a handful. We all get along good, but it was interesting seeing the dynamics in the house for an entire year. I did a few things out and about, but I was home. I was doing Zoom shows, not unlike tonight, doing Zoom. And, if you got a good internet connection, the show is good. If you don't have one, man, the comment sections can drive you crazy. I had one gig where I'm doing Zoom, and they had a big TV over here, and it had all the comments in the section going on. The first thing that I read over there was, this guy looks pretty dim. He don't seem that bright. And I didn't realize she was talking about her monitor. I took it personally. But we're doing our thing out here, and I did travel quite a bit this past few months, and things are pretty much back to normal in some places. In some places, we're just taking a little bit slower. But it's good to get out and see people again. And the one thing I've learned over this past year is that we need more empathy. It's on sale. Get it while it's hot. People are not empathetic with others. Everybody thinks you should do things the way you do it personally, and that's not the way the world works. We're 50-50 on just about everything in this country. I'm okay with wearing a mask if that's what I'm supposed to do, and if I don't need to and I've been vaccinated, I might not wear it. It's just the way it goes. I was headed into a Walmart. Right there on the door it said, mask required. So I put my mask on before I even got into the building so I wouldn't forget. And man, this lady popped out of nowhere. She was angry at me. She just popped out in front. She goes, sir, I don't know if anybody's told you this or not, but you don't have to wear those things outside. It ain't a good look and it ain't doing nothing for you. I just took a step back and looked at her, and she's wearing socks and Crocs and a pajama top. I'm like, right back at you. I don't know if anybody told you this or not, but you don't have to wear that out in public. It ain't a good look. It ain't doing nothing for you, ma'am. And you might want to get tested. I think you lost your sense of taste. I didn't say that last part, but I was thinking it real loud. But yeah, the virus is just crazy. We don't, it even affected animals. I read where 2 gorillas in the San Diego Zoo contracted COVID-19. That just shows that quarantining alone is not going to stop the virus. They've been in the same pen for 40 years. But they found out that they had COVID. That's what the article said. So I'm just going to give a shout out right now to the zookeeper who had to swab the nostrils of 2 gorillas. I hope you still have your arm there, buddy. And if I got the vaccine as soon as it came out. I'm 53, so it didn't seem like I was ever going to get it. Remember when they first started announcing the age groups? It was like if you're 150 or older, if you knew Moses personally, if you talked to Noah, it was just like it was taking forever. And then it finally got down to 60. Then it hovered there forever because we got a lot of people in the country in the 60s. And I'm 53. I'm like, I got to get this thing. And so I was telling a friend of mine about this. She's a pharmacist. She goes, well, go to your local pharmacy towards the end of the night. Sometimes they have to throw some doses away if the people don't show up for their appointments, or you can take their spot for them the later, in the day that it goes. So I'm like, that sounds good to me. So I started hanging out at all these pharmacies at closing time, just kind of walking around and, if they got a vaccine, can I get it? And sure enough, I got one. And as soon as I posted that I got my vaccine, my best friend, Gary, he just jumps all over me on Facebook. He's like, buddy, You got to watch what you put into your body. I'm like, Gary, you're posting from Taco Bell right now, okay? I don't think you don't even know how to pronounce what you just ate. But then I realized some people will never get the vaccine. That's fine. Just be careful, you know. But if we want more people to get it that haven't got it yet, we should make it edible. That's what they did with the polio vaccine. They put it on a sugar cube and gave it to kids standing in line for school so they could get it down, you know. We need to make a vaccine that's dipped in butter and deep fried, cover it with sugar, and make it shaped like a rifle. That's what America wants, right? And let Paula Deen administer it to everybody. She can prep the area with a stick of butter, put some blue bonnet on it, get the Paula Deen COVID-19 vaccine. That's what I'm going for. And maybe just have McDonald's distribute it, you know, so we don't get bottlenecked everywhere. They got 3 drive-thrus at some of these McDonald's. Go by in the morning, get you a McDermott McMuffin or some Pfizer fries late in the day. Whatever you got to do to get through it, you know. But not everybody's going to be the same. You know, my wife is actually mad that we don't have to wear masks all the time now because she thinks I look better when I got one on. So took me a while to figure out what she was saying was the less of your face I see, the more I like it. But for the most part, things are starting to pick back up, and hopefully everybody out there can get through it. You know, there's been crazy times in the planet before, but I think this is the first thing that's happened globally that has impacted everybody since the Great Flood. If you think about it, the flood that flooded the earth, this was the last time we all had to deal with something at the same time. And it just shows how different people approach things differently. So I hope whatever you're doing is working for you and you're getting through it, you know. But other than that, the other thing I learned this past year was you have time to get healthy. You know, if you're not going anywhere, you're not doing anything, you can still make a doctor's appointment and try to get things taken care of while you got some downtime maybe. Yeah, I went into the doctor right at the beginning of the pandemic, right before actually, and just wanted to get my normal checkup. And everything was good except for I found out I got the high cholesterol. Anybody got the high cholesterol? I mean, it's out there. I didn't know what a good number was. Supposed to keep it 200 or under. My cholesterol level was 425. Yes, that's the highest in my county. So I got to go to regionals in the summer. Yeah, made it all the way to the bacon bracket and got tapped out in the gravy. But yeah, 425. My doctor did not find that amusing whatsoever. He said, "Sir, you got to come back in here. We got to retest you. This number can't be right." Go back in. My number was even higher, 432. He goes, "We got to change your diet and your exercise programs." I said, "Uh-oh, can't do that, sir. I don't have either program going on right now." I said, "What do you want me to do first?" He goes, "Why don't you get on a diet, come back in a few weeks, and we'll check your numbers again and see if it changed at all." I said, "What diet do you recommend?" He goes, "I'm going to let you figure that out. Any diet is going to help you with that cholesterol number." Well, he should have gave me some instructions because I started Googling diets, and I found a website. You put in the food you like to eat, and it tells you what diet will let you eat it. Yeah, I mean, everybody can find a diet on that thing. I got on the Atkins diet because I like to eat meat. That's not what I'm supposed to do for my cholesterol, but that's what the diet said I could do. So I started doing everything that it said to do on this Atkins diet. You ever hear of the Atkins diet? It looks good on paper, but I don't know how people stick with it. It says right there you're supposed to eat meat 5 or 6 times a day. Then it recommends you smoke a cigarette and take a nap. I know. That was the Chet Atkins diet that I got on. If you don't know who that is, you probably don't have high cholesterol. So I didn't want to get on a diet. Didn't work for me. And then I went back to him. He said, "Well, you need to exercise better. Why don't you ride a bicycle 3 or 4 times a week for about an hour at a time?" That's what he told me. I said, "I'll tell you why not. I'm 53 years old. You see a man my age on a bicycle, your first thought is not, oh, he's out exercising, is it? You think that poor guy had a repo or a DUI. That's what you think." So didn't want to do that. Then he says, "We can put you on medicine." I said, "Stop. I've seen the commercials. 55 seconds of horrific side effects for maybe 5 seconds of something that does you any good. And then you got to take another pill to get rid of that first pill's side effects. It's a slippery slope." He said, "Well, just try this Lipitor pill. It's got great reviews. It's been out for a long time. It'll definitely get your numbers down." So I did, but they left out the big side effect on their commercial. It's $8 a pill. $8 a day. That's a Big Mac and a side of fries. $8. And they're little. One morning I got to take my pill and I dropped it and I couldn't find it and I was out $8. So now I just wrap it up in a piece of bacon, swallow it whole every day. Yeah, I melt cheese on there so it sticks. You get a toothpick in there, it's a pill in a blanket. Sell that back to Pfizer. Yeah, but that was the first heads up that I need to watch what I eat. And I really didn't know much about cholesterol or any of that stuff. But the doctor said one thing you can do if you're unsure what to have, just go ahead and have chicken as much as you can. It's going to be a little bit better for you. And that was fine with me. I love chicken. My favorite place to go is Chick-fil-A. You like going to Chick-fil-A? Yeah. Pretty nice people in general at the Chick-fil-A, aren't they? I heard about a lady in San Antonio, Texas recently, was about to give birth in the car on the way to the hospital, couldn't make it, told her husband, pull up on this exit up ahead. They got a Chick-fil-A up there. They'll let us have it in there, I guarantee it. And it's clean, and those people are nice. I mean, man, that is some good PR. If people are having babies at your fast food joint, I mean, nobody's birthing babies over at the Arby's. That's all I'm saying. Got to step it up. You might have the meats, but you ain't got the newborns there at Arby's. But that's what the guy did. The husband pulled right in there, and the people at Chick-fil-A let him in. It was right around closing time. They had the baby, and the baby was delivered fine, no problems. And then the man that ran that franchise said, you know what? This child and its family can eat here for free until that child turns 14 years old. Then that child can get a job here. I told my wife, I didn't know it's the way it worked in the world, you know. I said, if we're ever going to have another baby, yeah, let's have it at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. So I'm not paying $18 for mashed potatoes twice in my life, I tell you that. The waiter brings out the bill. It's going to be $120. I don't think so. Have you met my baby, Ruth? She was born here. So, yeah, I do eat a lot more chicken, but you got to double check and make sure it's chicken. That's what I've learned. KFC is getting ready to roll out chickenless chicken in a couple of weeks. Can you all believe that? Is the world gone crazy? Colonel Sanders is kicking the bucket twice right now, isn't he? If I bite into a winged and it tastes like a green bean, we're going to fight. That's all I got to say, you know. And you got to really find out what's in your food. You know, my friend Gary says you got to watch what you put into your body. Well, you got to at least find out what it is. They've got this Franken food out there, fake meat burgers and stuff, Impossible burgers. Have you tried an Impossible burger? Yeah, it's impossible to finish in one sitting, I tell you that. My wife tried to give me one of those. I came home one day and she had burgers on the plate and the grill wasn't running and I knew something was up, so I'd take a bite of the burger and I'm like, ooh, what's that? Kind of dry. She goes, oh, honey, it's a bunch of vegetables squished together to taste like meat. I said, what you're describing is what I grew up on called hamburger helper. But this thing ain't helping no burger. It's just all the vegetables. And then I realized you put that on top of a regular burger, it actually tastes pretty good. She goes, well, you got to eat better. You go into Cracker Barrel too much. That's where you're getting your high cholesterol. And that could be true. I'm a Cracker Barrel man. You ever go to Cracker Barrel? I get the breakfast every single time. Uncle Herschel's favorite or the sunrise sampler. Sometimes Mama's pancakes if I'm feeling a little jumpy, you know. But I almost died one time at a Cracker Barrel. True enough. I'm sitting there and the tornado siren down the street goes off. And I start looking for a safe place to hide. Inside the Cracker Barrel. Can you pick a more unsafe restaurant to be in during a twister? You ever look at the walls and ceilings? They got hose and pitchforks and antlers. Golf tees are flying at you 90 miles an hour. It's like a hillbilly matrix. Like, I was slipping on cherry cobbler for a half an hour trying to get out. But I love the Cracker Barrel. Favorite place to go probably of all time. And again, probably the reason I got high cholesterol. But it's farm food, basically, sugar, butter, and salt. And that's what I grew up on. I grew up tobacco farming with my dad in Lexington, Kentucky. I don't know if y'all have ever been there, but it's a pretty little place. But my parents still there on the farm in the same little ranch house they've been in since 1964. Been there the whole time. Little bitty, I think it's 1,100 square foot little home there. We finally got to, when things opened back up, got to go up and visit them. And first thing I just said, Mama, anything new going on around here? Y'all had a whole year here to do some fixing up. Anything new going on? My mom was so excited. She goes, oh, yeah. We just got a home security system installed in this place. I'm like, you did? What do you think's going to happen? Somebody's going to break in and remodel when you're not looking? I mean, if somebody broke into my parents' house, they would think they got inside a 70s museum by accident. They'd knock down the door and trip over the beanbag chair and hit the couch and slide off the plastic that came with the couch. Yeah. They'd hit the wall, big orange picture made out of yarn will come down, big spirograph thing. My dad would be throwing pet rocks. Stay down, stay down. I said, Mom, your house is nice, but nobody's breaking in. And if they did, my advice would be go over to the stereo and hide in that middle compartment between the speakers and wait for them to go away. Pop out with an Oak Ridge Boys 8-track tape. Take that. Giddy up, a bop, a mow, mow. This house is protected by Elvira, Remember that big old stereo? 6 foot wide, hi-fi. Looked like wood, made out of plastic and heavier than concrete. And you had the green, red, or gold velour speakers 3 feet apart. When you got to vacuum your speakers, it is time to head to Best Buy. All right, people? But that's my parents' house, and I know I shouldn't make fun of that stereo. It's going to be mine one day. Yeah, my parents did a little bit of downsizing over the pandemic, which I thought was a good move. But reality, downsizing is a misleading term. They're just giving me the stuff they should have thrown away 50 years ago. I take it home and throw it in my garage, When I was up there visiting, I said, anything you want me to take out of your garage and help you out? Haul it away to the junkyard? She goes, oh, don't take it to the junkyard, but we got something for you. Let me go get it. She comes out, she found an old computer in the attic, and she wanted me to get it up and running. A Commodore 64. Remember a Commodore 64 from 1982? My older brother got that out of a Sears catalog. Y'all remember Sears catalogs? Yes, long time ago. He got that out of a Sears catalog. 2 weeks after he got it, he learned how to reprogram it. The hard drive was a cassette player. I mean, this thing, you had to hook it up to an old black and white TV. But he knew how to work it. No computer classes, just had it all up here. He's always been on computers. My parents' first time on a computer was this past Christmas. Yeah, they couldn't see their grandkids like they wanted to, and they were upset about it, rightly so. So me and my two brothers pitched in, got them a basic laptop so they could use the camera on there and FaceTime and see their grandkids whenever they wanted to. That's what they're supposed to use it for. Yeah. Well, we get them the service, get them the computer. I go up to help install it, drive back home. 2 days later, my dad calls me up on the phone. He's all excited. He said, Richard Dale, I'm about to fire off an email. Keep an eye out for it. I said, I will. And just so you know, moving forward, you don't have to call people right before you fire off an email to them. If you're going to text me later, how about a smoke signal? That'd be a great idea. Maybe two, it's windy. But I figured my dad, who's in his 80s, who has never been on a computer, just wanted me to make sure I got his email. So I said, all right, sir, I'll go double check. I opened my inbox. There's an email, but it's not coming directly from my dad. It's asking me if I want to follow him on Twitter. Yeah, this ain't good for nobody right here. My dad doesn't say a whole lot when I visit, so I thought, well, I'll check his Twitter feed. Maybe I'll learn something about him, right? So I click over. Not only in 2 days has my dad set up a Twitter page, he has put out 162 tweets. Yes. All capital letters, no punctuation, and 0 followers. He's just tweeting in the breeze. I said, let him rip. So I'm like, 162 tweets. I don't know if my dad says 162 words when I go visit. This ought to be good. So I start scrolling down through the tweets trying to figure out what he's so excited about. And I realize it is not 162 individual tweets. It's one tweet that took him 2 days and 162 attempts to get all the way through it. Yeah, it gets even worse. It was a big story, and the whole story was about birds because my dad thought Twitter was a bird-watching, updating website. Yes, that's my gene pool. I'm lucky I found this place. If you want to find my dad on Twitter, he's out there. Since Christmas, he's up to 2 followers. It's me and the Audubon Society. He's at Nuthatcher 401-261853, which is also his Social Security number. So if you want to log him out, the password is password. But that's my parents, and that's my dad, and I'm happy to have them. Don't get me wrong, they're pretty fun people. In fact, the best part about growing up on the farm was hanging out with all my crazy uncles when we're working on the tobacco. Sometimes we'd be, baling it up, or we'd be in the barn together and sharing stories. And I got to hang out with my crazy Uncle Chuck, who's still my favorite person on the planet. Still with us, 89 years old. 89. 50% Irish and 50% Italian. So yes, very pale and pasty white and hairy and angry all at the same time. Looks like a marshmallow's been kicked around on a barbershop floor, pretty much. But yeah, he's a tough guy. Tore up from the floor up. Chuck is what we call him. He's got a glass eye, a toupee, and false teeth. All 3. Yeah, that's not an uncle. That's Mr. Potato Head right there. Yeah, when I was a kid, I was fascinated. He had the glass eye from when I was little. And, I think to disarm us when he was a kid, he would pop it out, let us hold it. We would play Yahtzee with it sometimes, or marbles. And, he didn't think nothing about it. When I was a kid, I was fascinated. I'm like, man, that thing's cool. But he had that same glass eye from when I was a kid till when he was like 60-something. And I remember we all went and got him it was Christmas time. We said, you mind if we get you a new glass eyeball for Christmas? He's like, you're the one that's got to look at it. Knock yourself out. I said, all right. So we hopped on the internet, tried to find glass eyeballs, started Googling it, and found a magic 8-ball glass eye that was up for sale. And yes, we did. We bought it. He popped it in there, and man, he loves it. He's more outgoing than he's ever been before with it. Sometimes, though, it's confusing. He's shaking his head no, but he's saying, ask again later, you know. The answer is hazy. But he's the guy in the family, like, you love to have him come over for the holidays because you know you're going to get a story out of it every time. And usually it's around the gift-giving holidays where you get the big stories, because he's the guy in the family. And I want to say this to be clear. I think it's the thought that counts when you give somebody a gift, and I think you should be a gift receiver and accept gifts. But also, people need to think a little bit longer before they get you something sometimes. My uncle, for Christmas, shipped everybody a pair of microwavable slippers. Slippers you heat up in the microwave before you put on your feet. I know. That's good for you and your feet, and too bad for the next guy to use that microwave oven right there. Like, what'd you put on these nachos? They got a kick. Well, you're 2 steps ahead of me. But that's my family. My in-laws, now that's a whole other story right there. I married a girl from Arkansas. Yep, so for a comedian, that's the gift that keeps on giving pretty much right there. You don't have to make nothing up. You just jot it down. And I love my family. I love the folks in Arkansas, but it's a different pace down there. You turn on News Talk Radio in Arkansas, it's just a guy whistling because there ain't nothing going on down there. If you hear him humming, that's a commercial apparently. You remember the first time I ever went down to Arkansas doing a show, before I even met my wife, I caught the comedy club in Little Rock. I said, how long do you think it'll take me to get there from Nashville? I'm about ready to leave. He goes, well, I don't know. I've never left the state. But there could be a time difference. Check into it. I'm like, there's no time difference. Oh, yeah, about 15-year time difference altogether. They're still wearing Who Shot JR tank tops down there. Don't tell them who did it. They get cable next year. You know? But my in-laws are fun. My favorite is my brother-in-law, Skillet. Skillet, yep, I just jotted it down. He is the good old boy all the way through. He drives a UPS van, not for a job. He just got one at an auction real cheap. And he modified it. Now it's like a deer hunting lodge on wheels. And it's pretty sweet. But I got my first chance to go hunt with him last year. And, man, I tell you, if you ever go hunting in a UPS van, get up early because there's only 2 seats up front that flip down. I'm the third guy to get in. They've got me in an old office chair, missing 2 wheels, and stuck in the back of that van. So I get in there and I just hold on, and I'm flying all around that van as soon as we hit the highway. Then we hit the farm, and I'm bouncing almost out the back door. I'm just screaming. They just throw a roll of duct tape back at me. Like, what do you want me to do? Tape myself to the wall? Like, no, rip off a piece as big as your mouth. You're going to scare away all the deer out here. And apparently I did. I didn't get a deer. Nobody got a deer. If you go hunting, you know this is to be the true thing. If you don't get a deer on your way back home, it seems like everybody that passes you got a deer that day. Every truck that goes by. 2 guys went by us in a Geo Metro, and they got a deer. But they didn't have it on the hood of the car. They crammed it in the hatchback seat of that automobile. It didn't even fit. They had to roll down the window and let his head dangle out like, thinking that deer is a loser twice. That's embarrassing right there. Then I figured he might be looking at me in the UPS van thinking the same thing, you know. But yeah, I enjoyed hunting. I grew up on it, you know. I grew up on a farm. We had to take care of the property. Sometimes you get coyotes out there or whatnot. My wife, when I got married, we didn't have the gun in the house discussion. And here's how I found out she didn't like it. I was out of town doing a show shortly after we got married and got our house together. And come back, and my 2 Sweet 16 rifles that my dad gave me, they're missing. I said, I put them in this closet, showed you where they were, but why are they not there no more? She goes, oh, the police department had this thing going on where you could bring down any firearm you didn't want in your house, and they would destroy it for you, no questions asked. I'm like, well, the questions are starting now, all right? I said, if you didn't like them, I could have gave them to somebody else to hold on to, or I could have locked them up somewhere different, but you didn't have to get rid of them, did you? He goes, I'm just going to tell you this now, honey. You're clumsy. You're going to get out there in the woods one day, half asleep, and slip on a root and shoot off half your face, and where's it going to leave me the rest of my life? She said that, 19 years ago. She got me a new rifle for my birthday a couple weeks ago, so trying to speed things up now, apparently. But yeah, my in-laws down there are pretty fun. And Skillet's a good guy. I make fun of him a little bit, but Skillet, I should tell you how he got his nickname. So apparently, when he was younger, he was trying to do that thing that kids do where they dine and dash without paying. Some people call it eat and run or whatever. And the waitress caught up with him at a Waffle House when he tried it and smacked him on the head with that big iron skillet and knocked him out cold. He was scattered, smothered, and covered right there in the parking lot, apparently. And here's the best part of that whole story. I didn't even think about this till last time I visited. Guess what his wife's name is? Pam. Like, you can't make that up. Pam and Skillet. I'm surprised they're still together. That's a non-stick relationship right there. So there you go. But yeah, they're good people. Love hanging out with them, and you know they come up to visit us in Nashville once in a while, and it's pretty fun coming up there. I like living there. Some places I go to I find fascinating. I like this part, St. Louis. I like the whole state of Missouri is pretty. You got hills, you got things to look at. Once you get to Kansas, though, boy, it drops off pretty quick after that, don't it? You ever drive all the way across Kansas? Yeah, I mean, you might as well drive it at night. You'll see more things, won't you? I mean, I knew it was going to be flat. You hear the stories. I was driving across there the first time. Yep, it's flat. I didn't know the highway patrol had to be extra sneaky because they don't have anything to hide behind. Because it's, you know, that tornado from the Wizard of Oz, I guess, took everything with it. I'm driving across Kansas, and I start to realize they have to drive these squad cars because if they didn't, you'd see them 6 or 7 hours away. All right? So they're out there in these Mustangs, Trans Ams, but I don't know this yet. First time driving across there, I don't know none of this. I'm in the right lane driving. This guy goes flying by me in a Trans Am. I mean, he's like, whoosh, like a blur. I'm just thinking I should keep up with that guy. He's probably got a radar detector in there somewhere. He had the radar, and I did not detect it, apparently. So I'm trying to keep up with the Trans Am. At the time, and this was, I think the first time I drove across there when this story happened, it must have been 2001. So 2001, I still had my 1996 3 out of 4 cylinder Isuzu pickup truck. Yeah, with a camper top on the back. I'm trying to catch up to this guy. It takes me a half an hour. But then I get close, and he started slowing down. So I slowed down, thinking there must be some highway patrol up here or somewhere. Then he speeds up. I'm like, all right, coast is clear. This goes on for like a half an hour. Then he starts swerving and like hitting his brakes real hard and kicking up gravel. Like, this guy has fallen asleep behind the wheel. I should check on him and see if he is okay. You ever been so stupid you pulled the cops over? Anybody else? I don't know how to pull nobody over. I just start flipping my one good high beam at him for a while. Roll down my window. I'm like, woo! Whoop, whoop. This guy pulls right over. I'm like, all right, he's safe now. I'll get out and check on him. I walk up to his window. I just start pounding on his window. Meanwhile, he's been loading the revolver on the other side. Then he cracks the window, and I see he's an officer, and I got zero game plan. But I start thinking, I should arrest him for reckless driving before he gets me for speeding. Yeah. But I don't know how to arrest nobody. All I know is from watching the Andy Griffith Show my entire life, like Barney Fife. I just walk up there, I'm like, hey! Would you mind rolling down your window? Yeah, roll her down. You want to get out of the vehicle there, buddy? Why, you're a big one, too, aren't you? Look at you. Want to know why I pulled you over? Because I'm an idiot. Why? I thought I was going to prison right there. He's like, you're so weird, I'll drop you off wherever you want to go. I'm like, all right, Cracker Barrel, let's go. No, he didn't drop me off. He grabbed me by the back of my neck, threw me in his little Trans Am squad car, and locked me in there by myself. He gets on his shoulder radio. A few minutes later, 6 more po-po roll up. Like, I hadn't seen 6 people all week in Kansas. Now we got a whole party going on. He talks to them, and they were saying something, and I could tell he's getting madder at them than he was at me. He gets all red-faced and hops back in there and slams the door. He's like, first off, who pulled over who? I said, sir, I know this is confusing for you. It is for me, too, but you were swerving all over the road. I thought I'd get your attention, make sure you were okay. He said, swerving? Boy, you're dumb. I was trying to get behind you to pull you over for speeding, but you wouldn't let me. I said, well, I didn't know. You never turn on your lights. You didn't turn on any sirens. You're unmarked. How was I supposed to know? I said, did you turn on your sirens or did I miss them? He looked back at me. He's like, well, you got me there. They went out on me yesterday. I'm like, well, I'll let you go if you let me go. He goes, I can't let you go, but let's step out of the vehicle and figure this thing out. So we step out there. He's like, first off, do you know how fast you were going back there? I said, I have no clue. My speedometer broke in 06. He goes, that's another $150 fine. He said, I was pacing you at one point 104 miles an hour. What do you have to say about that? I said, I can't lie. I say that's pretty good in a 3-cylinder Isuzu pickup truck. I say print that out. That's going to help me with my trade-in value. That's going to help me there. Take that to J.D. Byrider. He goes, well, 104. I said, he goes, do you know where you are? I said, yeah, I'm in the middle of Kansas. I know where I'm at. He said, well, what brought you out here? I said, I was doing a fundraising event for the March of Dimes in Wichita, but it wrapped up, and now I'm headed as far as I can tonight driving. He goes, back it up. What does that even mean, doing a fundraising event for March of Dimes? I said, oh, I'm a comedian. I was helping raise money from a comedy show. Boy, he got real quiet. He looked at me. He's like, comedian? Buddy, I've been staring at your face here for 15 minutes. You don't ring a bell. Been looking at your license here. That name don't ring a bell. Must not be a very good comedian if I don't know who you are. You ever been on Letterman or Leno or something like that? And I couldn't stop myself. I'm like, nah. You ever been on Cops? Ah. So that'll be on in a few weeks if you want to see me on Cops. When ignorance attacks. That's my special. But yeah, that was boy, that was a long time ago. Actually, I'm going to play a couple things on the guitar here real quick. We got a few minutes left tonight. Hope everybody's doing good that's watching and having a good time out there. I'll tell you this, I'd never played guitar until I moved to Nashville 20-something years ago, 21 years ago. And when you close on your house, they give you one. So that's kind of how it works down there. Yeah, and actually, I don't even know if I should mention this or not, but I was just excited that my wife called me earlier today, and she said, we just sent in our final house payment. I can't believe it. I said, really? She goes, yeah, it's not paid off. This is the final payment we can afford right now. So now I've got financial peace and all excited about that. So let's see. I normally would ask everybody here in the congregation or the audience what kind of music you like, but let me just tell you what I grew up on. First thing I grew up on was a little bit of Southern rock, so play a little bit of that for you here real quick. That's all I know of that one. Yeah. Think about that for a second. That's Sweet Home what? Alabama. Everybody that's ever heard that song knows about Alabama. People in every country on this planet has found out about Alabama through a cool, upbeat Southern rock song. You know, not every state gets that lucky with their state song, you know. There's a lot of good states. Texas has a bunch of great songs. St. Louis got a lot of good blues. You go to some places, they ain't got a lot to pull from. Did a show in West Virginia a while back. I'm like, y'all got a song like that? They're like, yeah. Where'd you go? Yeah, I grew up on, well, I got out of high school in the 1900s and 80s. 86 is when I graduated. I don't know if anybody guessed I got out of high school that year. All of our music was heavy metal hair bands, and their biggest hits were always their ballads. Our prom theme in 86 was Poison, Every Rose Has a Thorn. Y'all remember Poison? I was looking them up on the internet recently and saw, I guess it was just an ad that was targeted towards me. It was an ad that said, on tour, Poison, Rat, and Warrant. Triple bill. Same songs, same energy, just a different decade. And I'm like, well, maybe 2 out of 3. So it might be the same songs, but not the same energy. You think they got the same energy they did back in the 80s, the way those guys lived? Poison don't. They probably come out, can't even get through the first song, you know? They're like... Probably change their name to Defibrillator or something like that. But that was my rock and roll in the 80s. That's what it was, you know. Then in the late 80s, they were trying to get rid of heavy metal, or it had gone through its phase, and they didn't know what it should sound like. So they went away from the guys wearing makeup to guys wearing flannel, like Pearl Jam, you know, Pacific Northwest grunge. This is my favorite Pearl Jam song right here. What is that guy trying to say? Sounds like Bob Dylan choking on an Egg McMuffin or something. Come on, cough it up, man. But all those songs I grew up with, I always enjoyed, you know. And when I started trying to write songs, I was like, man, everything has been sung about. You know, how do you come up with something new? And a friend of mine said, well, just write a song about stuff nobody sings about. I'm like, all right. And so I started just looking at my daily travels in my life, and I realized nobody has written about the joys of driving a rental car. I don't know if y'all have ever driven a rental car or not, but First time you get behind the wheel, you're a little bit nervous. You might crash this car. You don't want to do that, right? But then a guy told me at Hertz there, he said, you know what? For $20 a day, you can buy all the insurance you need on this vehicle. You can total it, and your insurance won't even get a phone call. I'm like, is this a double dog dare? I'm on. Here's $40, follow me in 2 cars. I'm going to wreck the first one in the parking lot, take out 6 or 7 of the other ones. I mean, if you buy it $20, you can do whatever you want. And maybe you've got a teenager like I do at home, and you got to teach him how to drive. Why tear up your own car or your minivan? Go out to the airport, rent something cheap, and drive it around. Get that insurance. Let them just tear it up. This song is full of ideas for you next time you drive one. There's something about a rental that seems so appealing. It may just be a you-go, but you go four-wheeling. Play bumper cars on crowded city streets. Put your cigarettes out right in the seat. It's a rental. It's not really your car. You can knock down Harleys outside of a biker bar. You can drag race a hearse, get it up to 90 and pop it in reverse. You can get in the left lane and go 35. Set that cruise control and sleep while you drive. Let a strange dog have its litter on the floor. Knock down pedestrians by opening the door. It's a rental. You don't have to keep it clean. See how it runs on a tank of kerosene. It's a rental. They have to take it back and drive it through a hailstorm until the windshield cracks. It's a rental. All right. All right. I'm going to wrap up with one last thing here tonight. I know maybe not everybody out there listening is a country music fan. I wasn't, I've gone through phases. I like some of the earliest stuff that my parents listened to. They didn't like it. Then I liked it in the 80s a little bit. And then I didn't like it in the 90s. But I've learned this. The people that don't like it just haven't heard a good country song. In every kind of music, I don't care what it is, they've got some great artists. My friend Gary recently said, I can't tell a good country song from a bad one. I'm like, Gary, you've lived here longer in Nashville than I have. Every good country song has one thing in common. In fact, I'm going to bring this down here just a little bit to make sure y'all catch it. Every good country song ever written has to have one of these things somewhere. Right? You ever hear one of those? That's how you know it's a hit right there. And only country songs do that. You never crank up heavy metal like... All right? And I think Johnny Cash was the man that made it famous. Y'all remember those old Johnny Cash songs? Every one of his hits had it in there somewhere. He probably just stumbled on, his finger just probably slipped off the string one time, and they caught it on a recording like, man, do that again. That was cool, Probably just hanging out one day going, man, these songs are coming right along. I believe I need a... Could have had a jalapeno popper and wrote Burn Ring of Fire right there on the spot. And it burns, 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 burn, burn. All right, that's going to do it for me this evening. I hope everybody watching at home or wherever you might be tonight had a good time, had a couple of laughs, and hope everybody's safe and healthy, and hope to see you the next time through, maybe in person. You guys take care. God bless you. Thanks to St. Pete's for having us here tonight, and man, had a good time. Take care, everybody. God bless you.